Hope and Stanley Adelstein, who'd been members of the City Club for many, many years. Stanley, I think, had been a member of the City Club for 70 years when he died. Had given a gift to the City Club to establish an essay contest, the Hope and Stanley Adelstein Free Speech Essay Contest, inviting students from around our community to consider various issues around freedom of speech and write essays about them. And then the winners of those essays not only get their essays published on our website, not only get a small scholarship or financial cash award. It's not even a scholarship, really. They can use it for whatever they want. But they also get to deliver their winning essays as short speeches here at the City Club prior to an event. So that's what's happening today. We're really excited about them. And I just want to note, too, Hope and Stanley Adelstein, absolutely wonderful people. And I know there are people here in the room today who remember them. Can I see just show of hands if you remember Hope and Stanley? I know that, come on, Weltman, you remember Stanley. And I know Merle remembers Stanley Adelstein as well. Okay. They were amazing, but in their commitment to the City Club and their commitment to freedom of speech, they were in many ways, I don't think they realized how prescient they were and how much we would need to have conversations about the importance of freedom of speech. So I thank you so much in advance for giving a little bit of your attention to these wonderful young people. These are the two first place winners, one from the junior class, from the 9th and 10th grade, and then the second is going to be from our 11th and 12th grade competition. But first up is Lillian Chaiten from Laurel School. Please give her a round of applause. Come on up, Lily.
Hi, my essay is called The Tree of Life. As a Jewish teenager, the lack of gun control has had a profound effect on my daily life over the past few years. Gun violence has always been a part of my life. It's like a looming cloud, you don't always notice it, but it's always there. But the first time I truly remember gun violence affecting me was the Pittsburgh Tree of Life shooting. I was in 6th grade at a Jewish day school when my teacher stood up in front of the class and explained in the most child-friendly way what had happened, as if there's any child-friendly way to explain the death of 11 Jews in their place of worship. I remember sitting with 4 other Jewish girls whom I had known since preschool, and all of us thinking, what if we're next? That is the reality I have to live with as a Jewish teenager in America. That I'm not at risk of being shot, not just daily at school, but because of my religion. The Tree of Life massacre continues to haunt me. On September 21st, 2022, NBC Philadelphia reported that the trial for the Tree of Life massacre will take place on April 24th, 2023. By that date, the massacre will have passed its 4th anniversary. 4 years of Robert Bowers, the shooter, claiming innocence. 4 years of kids like me living in fear, wondering if we're next. During those 4 years, I left my Jewish day school that I had attended since preschool, I had my bat mitzvah, and I began avoiding going to synagogue. It's not that I don't want to go to synagogue, that is, after all, where I spent every weekend as a child. The truth is that I'm scared. I'm scared to walk through those doors because in my mind, the big bad man with a gun will follow. I know others feel the same way. I see it in my parents' eyes when the door slams, and I see it in the way I'm not the only one looking for an exit, a planned escape, just in case I need it. You don't have to look very hard to see how gun violence has changed the Jewish community. The Cleveland Jewish Federation alone put an estimated $1.1 million into security in 2022. Our synagogue installed bullet-resistant glass, whatever that means, in the sanctuary, and my rabbi announced the other day that we would be practicing run, fight, hide drills, just in case. I learned just this year that my friends are greeted by a pastor when they walk into church. I am greeted by 2 armed guards at my temple. I hadn't known that it wasn't normal to see these vehicles and officers every Saturday, and that it is less normal to need them at all. I realized at a young age that I have to be on higher alert solely because of who I am. These anxieties have only increased as of late. There have been about 1,000 school shootings in the US since 2012, according to data gathered by Statistica. During that time, I would have started kindergarten, learned how to read, witnessed a global pandemic, and been to 3 different schools. In 6th grade, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, and though I have been working hard since to manage it, the rise of school shootings has just fed to the fire. A study by the Pew Research Center found that 57% of teens surveyed are very worried about the threat of a school shooter. While that study was done in 2018, I can assume the percentage would be even higher today. Looking back, I don't remember a time where school shootings didn't occupy at least a small part of my mind. The Sandy Hook massacre happened when I was in kindergarten. And though I did not know it at the time, that would be the first of many school shootings that would happen during my life as a student. Now that I'm older, I have come to realize that these incidents, though they may not have affected me directly, leave a lasting impact on my life today. Until now, I thought it was normal to freeze when a door opens, or flinch when a textbook is dropped too hard. I subconsciously plan an escape route for every class I'm in, and active shooter drills have become just as common as those for fires and tornadoes. In 8th grade, I was put on medication for my anxiety because the simple task of sitting in a classroom led to near daily panic attacks about the possibility of a shooter. I once read a letter that Founding Father George Washington wrote to the First Jewish Congregation of America. He closed the letter with a vision that all Americans shall, quote, sit safely under their own vine and fig tree, and there shall be no one to make them afraid, end quote. Until there is effective gun control, it is difficult to imagine that vision being fulfilled even 2 centuries later. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lillian. Tim Toliver is up next. Tim is a student at the Hawken Upper School. And while he's coming up, I should just mention that I'm not going to read the entire prompt. If you're curious, just go to our website and search for the 2023 Free Speech Essay Contest. But it is a sort of a combination between the First Amendment and Second Amendment. It asks students to consider those things. Tim, come on up.
Hello. The title of my essay is Prerequisites for a Safer World. We shy away from nuance because we think it makes us vulnerable. We avoid open dialogue because it forces substance in place of easy, empty words. We stick with the same old legislative proposals because familiarity is comforting. When it comes to gun violence, we're stuck in our ways. Indeed, anyone paying attention has long been familiar with the endless post-tragedy discourse. Stop politicizing gun violence. Let the families mourn. This is a wake-up call. Give teachers guns and schools metal detectors, fold-out walls, jagged lockers, thoughts and prayers. Our heated standstill has no time to lose. According to the Gun Violence Archive, there have already been over 10,000 gun violence deaths and 130 mass shootings in 2023. The news cycle can't keep up. Nobody can. Most people agree change is necessary, but successful legislation comes from productive discussion, and we simply don't know how to talk. I won't espouse common policies because, lacking mutual understanding, they'll fall on deaf ears. Instead, I believe there are 3 urgent prerequisites that we all must accept in order to think productively about gun violence: open dialogue, specific nuance, and atypical solutions. Creating dialogue. We don't have a national dialogue on gun violence. We have slogans and shouting matches. Proper dialogue requires a collaborative mindset, genuine questioning, and fleshed out specifics. This lack of dialogue isn't entirely our fault. Structural obstacles have historically prevented in-depth conversation. As citizens interested in change, it's our responsibility to recognize and resist these barriers. For one example, Eric Westervelt of NPR notes that before 2021, the CDC was not permitted to research gun violence. Quote, "The gun lobby effectively blocked federal funding." From this, we can first recognize why so many statistics are murky and misleading. As Westervelt explains, quote, "Disordered and highly segmented collection systems have created chronically unreliable data." Second, we can take advantage of the new research being done by legitimate organizations, including but not limited to the CDC. By backing up our claims with scientific evidence, we can show nonpartisanship while facilitating a more substantive conversation. There are also parties intentionally obstructing the political process. Rukmani Bhatia writes for the Center of American Progress. The NRA's political power rests on its ability to embed a narrative about gun ownership. Indeed, it exploits and expands the political divisions in an effort to discredit the work that is being done by gun violence prevention advocates. As distant as the ideas may seem, media literacy is crucial to fostering productive dialogue. Trusting our sources requires recognizing the motives behind them. Take advantage of the CDC's new research. Start conversations about gun violence with neighbors, family, and friends, but then stop them if they become heated. Research your sources. Tell your legislators via phone or mail that slogans aren't policy. We cannot improve our ideas without fleshing them out through open dialogue, and we can't have dialogue without discarding unscientific and biased narratives. Finding nuance. Accepting nuance requires giving concessions to the other side. You must admit there's validity in the opposing argument. In that way, it has to be reciprocal. If I admit that there's room for compromise, while you maintain that your solution is the only way forward, then only my voice will get diminished. This lack of nuance pigeonholes our beliefs, taking away our ability for in-depth analysis and forcing us to stick to talking points. Try this exercise. Democrats, ask a Republican, should someone be allowed to own a nuclear warhead? Ask then, what about a surface-to-air missile? Finally, why is an AR-15 any different? Republicans, ask a Democrat, can a single mother in a sketchy neighborhood keep a baseball bat under her bed? Ask then, what about a knife in her purse? And finally, why is a personal firearm any different? There is a compromise. We just haven't been looking. Finding the nuance in this discussion breaks us out of a mindset of winning and ushers in one of collaboration. Our habits hold us back. As Bhatia illustrates, the dominant narrative has been intentionally stripped of nuance to, quote, develop a convincing narrative that can be shared widely. However, there is common ground that most people agree on. By identifying and building off of it, we can explore specifics, discover the core of disagreements, and tackle the common threat of gun violence with a more productive, cooperation-based model. Experimentation. While many age-old legislative proposals have merit, most will never see the light of day exclusively because of their political past. If nuance and dialogue fail, we can still look to unfamiliar policies not traditionally associated with politics to find a way forward. For example, one critically overlooked solution is thorough education. In a 2021 report, Everytown Research reveals that in 77% of school gun violence incidents, other people were aware of the shooter's plans in advance. By funding threat protocol systems and creating organized anonymous reporting, we can develop systematic awareness that prevents tragedies in the days before they happen. In the long term, the University of Virginia reports that a removal of legal barriers to sharing safety-related information among educational, mental health, and law enforcement agencies would greatly reduce the risk of threatening action going unnoticed. Alternative policies aren't limited to education. ETR lists several other preventative measures, such as extreme risk laws, which allow family members or law enforcement to prevent a person from obtaining weapons through a court order if they are deemed to be a risk. Others include child access prevention laws, efficient intervention systems, and changes in schooling culture. There are solutions out there, and we have to be more proactive in experimentation. We'll never break national gridlock just by staying in place. My generation faces an awful discordance between what we see happening and what we see being discussed. In order to escape this bleak and repetitive national brawl, we must collaborate as citizens through nuanced dialogue and nonpartisan solutions. Stronger, preventative action must supersede just another backpack thrown when the shooter opens the door. Thank you.
Thank you both, Tim Toliver and Lillian Chaiten. That was absolutely wonderful. We have just a few minutes before we're going to get started, and I want to share just a few notes of gratitude. Before I say anything else, though, the gratitude of any judges, folks who judged the free speech essay contest are here with us. I know at least one of them is, but could you please give them all a round of applause? That doesn't happen without dedicated volunteers.